On January 25, 1971, the nation of Uganda was changed forever by a telephone call and a betrayal. While President Milton Obote was miles away in Singapore attending a Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, the man he had once trusted to lead his military, Major General Idi Amin, launched a lightning-fast coup d'etat. To understand how this happened, we have to look at the tension that had been simmering in the Ugandan capital of Kampala. Relations between Obote and Amin had reached a breaking point. Obote, suspicious of Amin's growing power and alleged corruption, had reportedly left orders for Amin to be arrested while he was out of the country. But Amin struck first. Using his loyalist troops in the army, he seized the international airport, the radio stations, and the major road arteries of the city. The initial reaction from the public was surprisingly positive. Crowds cheered in the streets of Kampala, viewing Amin as a hero who had toppled an increasingly unpopular and socialist-leaning government. Amin capitalized on this, presenting himself as a man of the people and a simple soldier who only took power to prevent a national crisis. He promised a quick return to civilian rule and free elections, promises that the international community, including Britain and Israel, initially found credible. However, the world soon realized that the man who had seized power on this day was not a liberator. Once his grip on the military was solidified, Amin discarded his promises of democracy. He dissolved the country's parliament and declared himself president for life. His rule quickly transformed from a populist military takeover into a paranoid and blood-soaked dictatorship. Amin's 8-year reign became one of the most brutal chapters in modern African history. He created death squads like the State Research Bureau to eliminate anyone he perceived as a threat: politicians, judges, university students, and even his own soldiers. By the time he was finally ousted in 1979, historians estimate that between 300,000 and 500,000 Ugandans had lost their lives. Beyond the violence, Amin's rule was defined by bizarre, erratic behavior and grandiosity. On the international stage, he was a spectacle. He sent telegrams to world leaders filled with insults and strange advice, and he famously granted himself a string of absurd titles, including Conqueror of the British Empire and King of Scotland. But at home, his economic war led to the expulsion of nearly 60,000 Asians in 1972, a move that effectively destroyed the Ugandan economy overnight, as businesses were handed to soldiers who had no experience running them. The January 25th coup was the spark that ignited a decade of chaos. It serves as a haunting case study in how a populist military takeover can spiral into a cult of personality and state-sponsored terror. It reminds us that when institutions are bypassed in favor of strongman leadership, the price is often paid in blood and the total collapse of a nation's future. What began on this day as a celebration in the streets ended as a national tragedy that would take Uganda decades to recover from. Idi Amin's rise to power is a permanent warning in the history books that the loudest promises of stability often the mask for the greatest era of destruction